HIPAA is serious business. Yes, sir, it is. And whole industry's been formed around it for better or for worse. As a front desk worker in a family care center in Chile, it makes me deeply happy to hear your compromise with health and creating a place where answers will be clearly given. Absolutely. And actually, I think AI is going to have one of the biggest impacts ever on healthcare in its entire history. It's absolutely extraordinary to see what Glass Health and GPT and these other systems are doing. I do have a lot of concerns, and certainly there's issues with hallucination and exactly how and where people apply AI, but generative AI is going to be a big, big deal for healthcare, and we're really excited. Well, this is a new one. Hi, Charles. I have my salary paid in ADA. Well, thank you so much. I have one question. Thank you for what you do. Can you tell me your thoughts on the Carrington event that happened in 1859 and if it happens again? I believe the Carrington event was the solar flare that knocked out all the telegraph wires. Let me fact check that if I think it's right. Carrington event. Yes. Let's see here. So the Carrington event was the most intense geomagnet storm in recorded history, peaking between the 1st and 2nd of September of 1959 during a solar cycle 10. It created a strong auroral displays that were reported globally and caused sparking and even fires on multiple telegraph stations. The geomagnetic storm was most likely the result of a CME, which is a coronal mass ejection from the sun colliding with Earth's magnetosphere. So the problem with an event like that, and that's a great question. I read about it years ago, and I just couldn't remember the name of it. But the problem with this is that in 1859, the only real electronic stuff that we had were telegraphs. We had a few other things that potentially would be impacted by a CME, but for the most part, it just roasted some telegraph wires. Well, now that the entire world is highly digital, a lot of people believe that if we had an equivalent event today, it would destroy most of our satellite communications and badly damage a lot of our digital infrastructure in the world. So, this is the equivalent of a global blackout where the stuff doesn't come back on, and the things you use to fix the things would also be damaged. So the impact could be a complete unraveling of the modern society if something like this occurred. Now, you can obviously mitigate it by having electronics that are shielded from the consequences of a CME, but most electronics are not and would not be. So certain systems would probably survive, but the most systems would be badly damaged. And the problem is that these types of events, these geomagnetic storms, they aren't exactly infrequent things. The majority of human history, we didn't care because they'd come up once a century or twice a century, and we would just see pretty lights in the sky, like aurora borealis on steroids. And who cares? You move on. But the issue is that this is the first 2 centuries, the 20th and the 21st, where we've had substantial domination of our lives by electronics, and electronics are quite vulnerable to things like the Carrington event. So, it is something that we need to really think about, and we need to actually, harden our electronics and our systems for, but it also shows you the power of decentralization. If you are very centralized and a terrible event happens, everything goes down. If you have redundancy, resilience, and the ability to replicate and restore from one node to all the other nodes, you can recover quickly from these types of events. So you design your way out of these types of things.